Your doctor knows cheap calories, additive, addictive related foods, marketing, right? Right. That's why they call it fast food. Marketing plays such a significant role in our life that to break it, you'd have to tear the whole thing up. Now I can tell you, this is a very, very hotly requested episode, hotly requested topic. We're going to talk about the fact that y'all willpower is not the reason why you can't control your diabetes or your hypertension. It's your diet. And your diet is fueling the disease that is adding to a lot of your problems. And you may be saying, Dr. Pierre, like, all right, what do I do about it? Like, yes, it's my diet. What do I need to do to try to get to it? That's what you're here for. Again, I'm Dr. Pierre, board certified internist, host of Medicine Mondays, man. We're going to talk about why your diet is adding to the problem and why it seems to be just supplanting it, right? Like, and again, it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault, right? It's the industry at hand that's playing a role that's getting you addicted to food. And you may have heard that before, right? And I hear a lot of times when I'm talking to patients who are, struggling losing weight, they talk about this level of like, doc, I feel like I'm addicted to food, right? It's almost as if it's taboo to say it, right? Because they understand the connotations of addiction, and they figure, all right, you can only be addicted to like illicit drugs and things like that, or sex or things like that. But like food, you shouldn't be addicted to food. And unfortunately, the answer is yes. A lot of y'all are addicted to food, and unfortunately, they made it that way, right? We're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about what are some things to do to try to, get out of this problem, right? Because when we think about the aspect of diet in regards to stress, in regards to inflammation, which leads to all of the other problems down the line, hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, strokes, cancer, dementia, all those things down the line, we have to bring it all the way back, right? That's why I'm loving this month, right? Because we've been bringing back down to the origin levels, so you guys can get an understanding of what the problem is, right? Yep, there's a problem, and we're going to talk about it. All right, so let's talk some numbers. Right? Pew Research, 6 in 10 Americans say they eat more processed food than they want to. Let's think about that. 6 out of 10 people say they eat more processed food than they actually want. So they recognize I shouldn't be eating this much processed food, but I'm eating a lot of it. Why? Because the finances are the reality at hand. It's just cheaper, right? It is much cheaper to get processed food in front of you than it is to try to get some food that, that isn't processed, that's natural, that you got to cook some things up, right? It's much more, quote unquote, they call it convenience, right? Because they factor things in time instead of health, right? It's more convenient for you to get processed food than it is to get non-processed food. That's a problem. We understand that. Everyone's working, everyone's stressed, everyone's busy, everyone's got like kids to feed and all that. Trust me, we understand that. The problem is that it's killing us, right? Another 1 in 4 Americans are dealing with metabolic syndrome, which again is a combination. We talked about this: high blood sugar, high blood pressure, bad cholesterol, metabolic syndrome. We talked about cardiometabolic health, right? Like this is a problem. You should check that episode if you have not had a chance, right? This is a problem at hand, right? 1 in 4 Americans are dealing with metabolic syndrome, meaning they have blood pressure, diabetes, and cholesterol problems, and they're likely obese. Because you usually don't have all three of those things, and you don't got a little obesity around, right? Not to say all, but it's usually an issue, right? It's no coincidence, right? Like think about this: in the last 30 years, type 2 diabetes rates have tripled. So it's not only is a numbers game, it's a life game, right? More people are being diagnosed with diseases that we know will kill them. And we can point right to the fact that more people are eating processed foods than they ever have before, than they don't want to, right? Imagine that, right? This is how the drug addicts feel. I don't want to do the drugs, but my body says do the drugs. I don't want to eat the bad foods, but my body says eat the bad foods. Time says eat the bad foods. My stress level says eat the bad foods. So this is where we're at. This is where we're at with it, y'all. And as a healthcare provider, like if I'm not the champion of telling you what's the problem, like what am I doing here? And remember, while we segue this, make sure you subscribe to the episode, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell. Make sure you're following. If you're my podcast listener and you have not subscribed to the podcast, especially if you listen to podcasts, you should go subscribe to the podcast as well too. I'm on Apple, Spotify. But if you like watching me and like watching my mannerisms, you want to come to the YouTube channel, right? Make sure Dr. Barry PRTV link will be in said show notes to get it, right? So back to our regular schedule program, right? So again, why aren't we fixing a problem that as hand, right? We talk about hypertension a lot. We talk about diabetes a lot. We give you a whole bunch of medications for that. We talk about high cholesterol. Give you a whole bunch of medications for that. We've started pulling back the curtain and saying, hey, what about stress? What about this chronic inflammation? What is that, right? Now we have to add the fact that diet is adding to this chronic inflammatory process that leads us down a river we don't want to go down. It leads us down a problem we do not want to even head to, but we're headed there because we got no choice until today, right? Let's talk about it. All right, so I think we got to have some uncomfortable conversations with our healthcare / sick care system, right? Because we do a better job with the sick. And I say this all the time because people always say, like, Dr. Pierre, why you call it the sick care system? Because we spend so much money when you're sick. We give so much money when you're sick that we do not give when you're healthy. Do you know, and you might not know, right? But I'll educate you, right? Because, this is what you're here for. Your doctor gets paid, right? Especially your primary care doctor. I'm only focused on my primary care team because I love primary care because it's about prevention. It's about managing. It's about getting to the point where you don't need to end up in the hospital because you had the stroke and the heart attack and everything else. It's about managing and preempting what medicine should be about. But unfortunately, guess what? That primary care doctor does not get paid well to pre-manage. They don't get paid well to just talk to you and educate you. They don't get paid well. You know who gets paid well? The person who has to do, the vascular procedures because you just had a heart attack or stroke. They get paid very well, right? But our healthcare system does not pay that primary care who could have prevented you from even needing that, right? It's a backward system. So when you say, Dr. Pierre, why don't the doctors even talk to us about food and nutrition? Guess what, y'all? First of all, they don't even teach the doctors about food and nutrition. If you have a doctor who seems to be well-versed, like myself, when it comes to nutrition and having these types of conversations, is because we have to go out of our way to get that information. We have to go out of our way to get that type of information and bring it to you guys. Because our training leaves a sliver. Literally, in fact, I think we had, during my 2 years in at medical school before we went to clinics, I think there was a 4-week session on nutrition. 4 weeks out of the 2 years. That was it. That was the nutrition. And we knew just enough to be able to pass some board exams, and then it was on our way. Right? So just understand that from training, your doctors aren't equipped to have these conversations, and more importantly, understand the importance of how diet is, right? And it's no shock, right, that we're in the situation that we're in now. No, it shouldn't be any shock to you guys, right? Because that's why we're here, right? So let's talk about, this. I like this aspect of it. Someone asked me, why does my doctor, why doesn't my doctor spend 20 minutes talking about food, right? Because they can't. And they don't get paid for it. Your insurance company doesn't get paid for it. And a lot of times they just don't understand it. Because your doctor knows cheap calories, addictive, related foods, marketing, right? That's why they call it fast food. Marketing plays such a significant role in our life that to break it, you'd have to tear the whole thing up, right? So this is a part of the system that we're in, that the marketing is better for processed foods. The ingredients are better from an addictive standpoint in processed foods, right? Like the cost basis is better in processed foods. That's just the reality at hand. That's just the reality that we're living in right now. It's much cheaper to deal with these things than not, right? It's much cheaper to have the processed foods than not. They know it. We all know it, right? And we have to kind of battle on it, right? But let's talk about some things we can do, right? Because That's why you come here, right? Let's talk about some things we can do to see if maybe we can get a little support, right? First thing you gotta read, right, is, and I like this. If sugar, corn syrup, or hydrogenated anything is on the label, you might want to reconsider. If sugar, hydrogenated anything, or corn syrup is in the main ingredients, you might want to reconsider. Right? Those are inflammatory. Those are inflammatory foundations right off the wazoo. Right? I talk about this a lot. Swapping out your soda for some water. Get your water on. Right? I got my water ready. Gotta have your water ready, right? Especially when you're recording. Get your water ready. Cutting one soda a day. This may sound wild to you, but just think about it. Cutting one soda a day can cut your risk of diabetes by 25%. You may be saying, Dr. Pierre, who drinks one soda a day? A lot of y'all. The soda industry is making a lot of money because a lot of y'all are drinking at least one soda a day. It's a lot of y'all. Like, remember, a 24-hour span, little can of soda. A lot of y'all are going through that in one day, if not more. The grocery list is important. The grocery list is important. Like, you got to understand, right? If you think about the map of a grocery store, think about what's on the outsides of the map and what are the insides of the map. Let's rock with me. Outside of the map is typically your meats, your cheeses, your dairies, your fruits, right? Those are typically on the outsides of the map. Inside the map, cardboard this, cardboard that, right? Like, process this, process that. All of your processed foods typically stack right up in the middle. Oh, yes, they do. All your processed frozen right up in the middle. Outside is where we got the dairies, we got the cheeses, we got the veggies, we got the meats, all little stuff that's not processed. This is where we should be living. A lot of us should be living on the outskirts of the grocery store, but a lot of us, right, because we got kids, we got time, we don't got that much money, are living on the inside, right? Because we're addicted, we're living on the inside, right? That's the reality at hand. Think about that. So you understand, you got to have rotisserie chicken, your rice, your vegetables, especially frozen if need be, right? Like, we have to be very proactive in the approach of our diet, right? And I'm gonna work on getting a dietitian to come on the show. We had one a few years ago. I think we were talking about diabetes, but I'll get it. We'll get an update. We'll get an updated guest on the show, right? Because in fact, I had someone ask me like, "Hey, Dr. Pierre, where are your guests at?" Right? I started getting so comfortable kind of doing these episodes that I want to make sure that when we do bring guests on to the show, it's for something special, right? So we are going to bring some guests back. And it may be when we do bring the guests back, they'll be specifically for the YouTube audience, or we're going to figure out. We're bringing guests back. I had someone ask me about that. Understand, read your labels. In this day and age, you should be able to take a picture of the label and say, hey, is there any processed things going on here? And you should be able to get an understanding, right? And then you have to be very realistic, right, with this last one, right? Because we done went to the grocery store, we done scoped the labels, we're switching out the sodas for the waters. You know what gets y'all in trouble? I'm gonna say it. I know y'all don't want to hear it. You know what gets y'all in trouble? Y'all don't prepare your meals. Yep, y'all not meal prepping, right? And let me stop you right there. Because I already know someone's going to be like, oh, I don't go to the gym. I'm not going to be stacking, 5 meals a day. Hey, meal prep for one day before. Like, hey, I plan on eating this food here. Boom, then we meal prep it for the next day, right? I'm not saying you got to have a whole week of food prepped and it'd be ideal. I don't do it, but it'd be ideal if you did. But I'm saying you can have a couple days prep. So you're not even having to think about like, oh, I'm in a rush. Let me just go grab this. Yeah, that's where y'all get in trouble. Y'all go to grabbing things. Let me just go stop by. I'm in a rush. I'm going to stop by and get this. I'm going to stop by and get that. Y'all be in a rush to get these things. And that's where y'all get in trouble, right? So meal prep is important because it avoids and helps, avoid all of those. Like, let me go stop and grab this fast food from here, right? It does a good job avoiding it. And they're typically much cheaper, right? Because you done went to the store. You done got your big 10-pound leg quarters, cooked it up on Sunday, you got the food ready, you got your veggies ready. Like, you could do some things right? You can do something. You don't have to meal prep the whole meal. Maybe you just meal prep the protein aspect of it, right? Right, and that's another thing, right? Like a lot of y'all proportions are terrible. Your fat, your protein, your veggies, your proportions are terrible, right? Get your proportions ready too, right? And you can't do that unless you meal prep, right? So understand, like it's an issue, right? And I want y'all to be better, right? And I want us to stress this. The reason why I want you to stress this because I want to take away that burden from me to say, hey, it's not your fault. The marketing is good. The finance, from a finance perspective, that's why they got you. There's some additive properties in those foods that make you want the food. So I understand that it's not your fault. But guess what? Now that you know that there's some issues in those foods that you gotta be avoiding, we can't let you rock with this excuse no more. Right? We're going to year 2026, about to go 2027 before you know it, because that's how the calendar works, y'all. You look up. You're like, all right, it's 2026. It's just early. It's just the start of the second quarter. Let me get ready. And the next thing you know, boom, it's New Year's resolutions time, right? And mind you, a lot of y'all got New Year's resolutions that y'all still need to be working on. It's only April. Y'all still need to be working on New Year's resolutions, right? It's only May. Y'all still need to be working on this New Year's resolutions. It's like the year isn't ending, right? The year has not ended. Like, so I don't want y'all to, don't do that. Do not do that, right? Like, don't run away from New Year's resolution. So, again, when we talk about, how do we avoid some things, right? Understand that this is not going to be a quick process, right? If I can tell you right now, this is not going to be a quick process. You're not going to change this overnight. You're not going to right the ship in one day. A lot of y'all have been addicted to these certain types of foods for years. I can assure you it's not changing overnight. Let me give you that permission to let you know it ain't going to change overnight. Nope, it ain't. But we're going to do some small things. We're going to empower it. Remember, y'all know the motto, right? Empower yourself for better health. Y'all know the motto. In fact, so I had someone ask me about that too. Anyone, right? I'm feeling generous. Anyone who wants any of the wristbands, right? You can get it on my shop page. But if you just comment on YouTube, say, hey, I want a wristband, I'll mail it to you. I'll mail you one of these things here. It says empower yourself for better health. If you want it, let me know. But understand, this is not going to change overnight. I wish it would. I wish there was a medication I can give you to change these issues overnight. They're not, right? It's one, we have to recognize how diet plays a role in this roller coaster of stress and chronic inflammation and disease. We have to recognize that first. And once we recognize it, then we can say, oh, all right, now that I know diet also plays a role, like stress plays a role, what do I do about it? What do I actually do about it? And that's why you're here for, right? So again, quick recap. Right? Your diet is a problem, but it's not your fault. But now that you know your diet is a problem, now that you know it's not your fault, what are you going to do about it? Right? We got to start educating ourselves. We got to be educated. There's those buzzwords on those labels we got to avoid. We got to get to the outside of the grocery store. Stay away from the inside as much as possible. There's some things in the inside you need. I understand that. But the outside is where we need to live. We need to live where the veggies, the meats, the dairies, the cheese, we need to live on that side, right? We need to live on the outside skirts of the grocery store, not the inside. That's why most of your grocery stores are made that way. Produce over here in this corner, meats over there in that corner, the delis over there in that corner, right? Like it's all, they keep the non-processed stuff on the corner, right? And then they almost force you to go inside, right? We got to break away from the middle, right? And then obviously, remember, there's no medications out there that's going to fix this thing, right? There's no medications, right? It's going to be time, right? And the big thing that people don't like to talk about, we got to start prepping, right? We got to get into our meal prep bag, right? And again, I'm not telling you to prep for a whole week. I'm not telling you to prep every single one of your meals, but you can make your protein on the Sunday evening and then have your protein ready, so you're not guessing what am I going to eat after work. You could do that. Right, like there's some things that you can definitely do to get us to the point where you're not like pressing for McDonald's and Burger King. There's some things you can do to get yourself together. I want to make sure we get you there, right? So remember, subscribe to the page, right? If you haven't already, subscribe to the page. Hit the notification bell, right? You're truly Dr. Barry Pierre. I'm gonna see you guys next week. Y'all be blessed.